I'm finally going to get to sharpening this customer's Rosecraft Otter Creek Barlow. Before I did that, I wanted to get the factory sharpness with my new sharpness tester, and it was 202.5. So we're going to put this on the Worksharp. Now, I like to use the wicked edge on a lot of my knives, but I have found one limitation of the wicked edge is smaller blades like this. I could do this, but a lot of times I'm forced to go with a little thicker angle so that I don't hit the clamp. And I just am going to try this. I'd like to do this at about an 18 degree. I think that's going to be good. It's going to, I like 17. I want to give this just a little bit more toughness. This is D2. It should be plenty tough and holding edge good. But we're going to go with an 18 today. And I'm going to start with the 120 grit belt, which probably isn't 120 anymore because it's well worn. But it's still aggressive enough to set that bevel. One thing I've learned on these wheels and edges and stuff, if you're not careful, you can get these in contact. So it doesn't hurt to put a little masking tape, protect this thing. So I like to start out pretty slow. I'm going to start out on level 2 out of 6 for the speed. And we're going to set the bevel. You know, this is 202. This thing's sharp right now, but want it a little bit sharper. So here we go. When you're going across here in the Worksharp instructions, it tells you to rotate the knife. I don't agree with that. I think proper knife sharpening should always be done perpendicular to the spine. That way you maintain the shape. If you go like this, when you're in the belly, you're actually taking the belly in at an angle that will eventually reduce the amount of belly you have on your knife. So you want to go in, and then as you need to make these turns, you just lift up on the end, keeping everything perpendicular to the belt. I already have a burr up here, so we're going to work at getting the burr on the straight part of the blade. Almost there. I have burr all the way down to here. I just have a little bit here that I have to get yet. It's funny, it seems that when they grind a lot of factory knives, they're always at a thicker angle here than the rest of the blade. Yeah, that burr is all the way along, right down to here, this last little bit. Just need to apex that, then we can move to the other side. Very light pressure. It's looking good. I'm almost there. I'm going to go ahead and flip it over, do some on the other side. Again, I have burr right away, all the way down to here this time. Nice. Just going to alternate sides now till we fully apex the entire length. Rosecraft does give you a nice sharpening choil. That makes this much nicer to set that belt in. Before, I could see glinting off the edge right up here near the ricasso. That's almost all gone now. So we are making good progress. Don't get impatient. Let the belt do the work. You don't want to like really shove in there and heat the blade up or anything. Yeah, I can feel burr now the entire length of the blade. I'm going to do a couple more light passes to make sure, and then we'll move on. Nice. Very nice. Okay. So we've reduced the angle a little bit. I would say, judging from how fast we got in apex before, we didn't reduce the angle too much up here in the belly and the tip area. That was probably pretty close to the 17 that I'm working for here, or 18. Down here, though, we did thin this edge and bring it in a little bit because it was very thick. So now we get away from that 120 grit belt and we go into the X65, the 65 micron, which is listed as a coarse. This is going to help us clean up anything left over by that 120. Just tracking a little bit here. There we go. Once you've fully apexed with the 120 and you go through the belt progression of all these finer grits, they will clean up that edge and continue that bevel. You don't need to force them. You don't need to put a lot of pressure on them. You just want to maintain your angle and let them do the work. I chose up here, you can move this wheel in these 3 different positions. And what that gives you is more space between these 2. So if you're all the way up here like I am, it's going to hold this tighter and give you the least amount of convex edge. If you're back here, now you have more room for movement and it'll give you a greater convex edge. It just depends what you want. I don't think this customer is going to be into stropping to keep his knife edge up. If he was somebody that would strop, then leaving it back here and leaving a little more convex edge, that would be really helpful. But as it is, I think leaving the least amount of convex is going to be the best bet. So that's why I placed it there. If you're sharpening for other people, it definitely helps to talk to them and get to know them and kind of learn what they like to do with their knife, what their skill level is, all that kind of stuff. And then maybe you can tailor your edges or whatever to what they're doing. I'm relatively sure that this will be just a general use pocket knife and will probably come back to me for resharpening when the time is needed, which is cool. We're on to the 4 micron. We just finished up with the 22 micron medium. Now we're on to the 4 micron fine. When you're paying attention to the edge, you can definitely start to see the finish come up on it once you start hitting this belt. Now the next 3 belts that I have, it's a 3600 grit, a 6000 grit, and a 12,000 grit. These differ some because see the stiffness of the backing This is an X backing. It's a much stiffer belt. This is more like a J backing. It's very flexible. So with this, it's going to give you slightly more convex edge. So it's nice to finish with these because it's kind of like stropping. And if you leave this on the same edge, it'll take this up into and finish your apex all on its own a little easier. You want to use light pressure. You don't want to push on these and make them curl around the edge or anything like that. Just use the same pressure you've been using on everything else. And these will clean that edge right up. I was pretty impressed by the results I'm getting from these things. These flexible belts are also nice for like recurves and oddly shaped blades because they will flex and go into those contours. Like I said, they really clean up the edge. The final apex and the final sharpness go way up with these. Now, if you're doing something like skinning game, if this was going to be a hunting knife, I would never go up this high. I would leave off with a nice toothy edge because that will cut through meat and skin and things like that much better than a finely polished edge. But for a general utility edge, a highly polished fine edge is great. Oops, got to tension it. These things do give just a little bit more hassle getting them out, but not a problem. There we go. Onto the 12,000 grit. One thing to keep in mind with these, especially with these flexible belts, with any of these, it's a thing, but especially with these, when you're bringing your tip across, you want to stop by the halfway point. If you go past that, you can push these belts down and see what happens. It'll change the angle that it's hitting your blade. And then you can round that tip. That's a very, very common mistake with these. It's one you want to maybe practice with some cheap knives. Go buy an Ozark Trail and sharpen it up a few times. But you want to stop when you're coming across and you're lifting. Stop with the tip around the halfway point and you won't have that problem. Okay, only one more belt to go. And that belt is not a Worksharp belt. It is a Super Strop leather belt. You can tell I've used it a little bit, but I've treated this belt with a Gendy poly diamond emulsion in a 1 micron size. So not only are we getting some nice stropping action with the belt, but it also has just a little bit of abrasiveness to polish that edge that last little bit. It's already, I don't know if you can tell on the edge, it's already nice and shiny. It's great. It's great. It's really sharp already. We're just going to run it on this for a few times to put that finishing touch on it. Usually for this, I back the speed all the way down to just level 1. You could do whatever you want. I'm sure you could run it faster than that and lighter touch. I'm just going to keep the same amount of touch pressure I've been using for everything else and run it a little bit slower. It's a fantastic power strop. Whew, yeah, I can see it. Right. Gotta wipe this off careful now. That's a beautifully formed and extremely sharp edge. But the proof is in the pudding. So this was, like I said, at a 202.5, which is right at the top edge for utility razor knife. And is even better than what they list for fine cutlery. So it was really good and sharp before. Good job, Rosecraft. If you haven't seen the best hardness tester before, I'm sure if you're watching some guy sharpen knives, you have. But it's basically a scale measuring in grams. And it takes, one way to do it is to take these little disposable testers, and has a little wire there, a little string that's all calibrated to be the same. You put it in, and now I will rock the knife down until that string gets cut. When it does, the scale is automatically going to stop and hold that value, and then you can see how much pressure it took to cut the string. So let's see where we're at with this Rosecraft now. Let me change the camera angle because otherwise I think I'm going to wind up standing in the way just because of the way I have to use this. Sorry for all the movement. Hope no one's getting seasick here. Okay, everybody see that all right? Let me unwrap this knife real quick. Get this masking tape. I do think that the masking tape is a necessary evil when you're sharpening with powered or guided systems. A lot of times you just, if it's one of your own knives and it's a beater or whatever, then maybe it's not that big of a deal. But when it's somebody else's, you want to keep it from getting scratched up. Look at that. You can see that edge gleam. All right. Let's see if we made any improvements here. $162. So we went from 202.5 down to 162. That is a very nice upgrade. Awesome. So there you have it. Sharpening and testing this Rosecraft, sharpening on the Worksharp, and verifying that we just cut right about 40 grams off of how much it takes to cut that test media with the best tester. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.